everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's City of Gardena City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll at this time?
Mayor Serta.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Here.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Here.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Here.
Councilmember Francis.
Here. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Heard that fire truck and somebody else's video, and then I hear mine. Okay.
That's my house.
Yes, it's passing my house now. So with that being said, all members of the council are present. Madam City Clerk, has anybody from the public requested to speak on any closed session items?
We have not received any requests to speak, Mayor Serta.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we're going to go into closed session. I hope that we'll be back by 7:30. So we ask that those of you who are at home to please be patient with us because we will come back on live in a few minutes. And, I'd like to ask all my colleagues if you can just hang up off of this call and go to procedure number 2 for a closed session.
Okay, I'm good, right? Hello?
Councilmember Francis, you need to hang up and dial the teleconference phone number.
Okay, thank you.
Checking in. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Just audio check.
Hi, Mina.
Unmute, Mina.
Meeting. Here I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. This is Becky. I just want to remind everyone that we are live.
No, you can't hear me. Mhm. 515-065. 515-065.
Paulette, Paulette, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I don't think so. You need a cell phone now. You can hang up the cell phone so we don't double hear you, as I did earlier.
Councilmember Francis, can you just say some words so we can make sure you're working?
She was just here and she's gone.
Sent you an email regarding the adjournment portion of the meeting. Do you have access to? Gosh darn
Here we go.
it. Okay.
We can hear you, Becky.
Okay.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just. You have entered the meeting as a panelist. Attendees can now hear you speak.
Okay. Oh,
Hey, guys, since we're missing out on dinner before council meeting, maybe we can get food DoorDash?
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm just saying.
I like it. I like it. I was
Not a
just
bad idea. Not a bad idea, Madam Mayor.
We still have to support local businesses, right?
Yeah, of course.
I've been trying to support local businesses all week, so yeah.
We can order Yoshinoya.
There you go.
Clam chowder soup, please.
Clam chowder soup.
Yeah.
Powder soup will make that scan in.
I'm sure this will be a long meeting, so we might want to call it in now.
Yeah.
Are we live or on YouTube yet?
Madam Mayor, yes, you are.
Okay.
We're live now.
Okay. Are we ready to start or?
I believe we're ready to go. Have everybody here.
Give me just a moment. We're having a little difficulty with Councilmember Francis.
Got it. Okay.
Just a moment. Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah, we can hear you right
We can-
now.
I see you.
We're not going to be able to see Miss Councilmember Francis tonight, so we're just going to be able to hear her.
Okay.
You may go ahead and start the meeting.
I want to remind all council members, if you can just mute your cell phones unless you're using cell phone to do the Zoom with, okay? But if you're using your phone for this, mute it, of course. Okay, so we are ready to begin the Gardena City Council Council meeting for Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Madam City Clerk, I'm sorry, before we go through roll, let me read this statement here. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus, Governor Newsom has issued executive order that temporarily suspends requirements of the Brown Act. Please be advised that the council chambers are closed to the public and that some or all of the Gardena City Council members may be attending this meeting telephonically or by Zoom. You are strongly encouraged to observe the City Council meeting live on Spectrum Channel 22 or online at youtube.com/City of Gardena or on live stream on the Zoom app. Observers may view the meeting by downloading the Zoom app and clicking onto the following link: https://us.zoom.eb.gov/j/702070460. You may also dial in using your phone. The telephone number is area code 669-900-9128, and the webinar ID number is 870-2907-0460. If you wish to comment on a specific agenda item, you may submit your comment by one of three options. The first one is email. So you can send your emails to our Deputy City Clerk at dromero@cityofgardena.org prior to the meeting. You can also go on the Zoom app and submit in the chat box. Please try to limit your wording to 200 words or less. And the third option is by telephone. By calling in using the telephone number 1-669-900-9128. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council will be given 3 minutes to speak. The City of Gardena thanks you in advance for taking all the precautions to preventing the spread of COVID-19 virus. So, Madam City Clerk, at this time, will you please call roll?
Mayor Serta,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Here.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Present.
Councilmember Francis.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. We just came back from closed session. Madam City Attorney, do we have anything to report from closed session?
No, Madam Mayor, there was no reportable action taken during tonight's closed session meeting.
Okay. We're going to begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And
Sure.
I believe immediately following that, invocation will be led by Councilmember Tanaka. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. All attendees or folks in attendance, please put your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to
the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you pray with me. Father, we thank you so much for all that you bless us with, all that you provide us with. We thank you for allowing us to get through this craziness of COVID-19. Allow us to have patience, not be anxious. Thank you for our leadership within our city to continue to make sure that our city and our citizens are getting the best care ever. So, Father, as we meet tonight, let us make great decisions. Let us make sure that the decisions that we make are for our city and for our citizens. And Father, just have everybody please be safe. Please do social distancing. Please take care of yourselves. And so, Father, we pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we're going to, if you follow your agenda, as you can see, we have no presentations, no proclamations. We're going to go on to appointments. Does any member of the council have any appointments to be made to any commissions, committees, councils, or boards at this time?
No.
Okay, if not, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, has anyone from the public wished to speak on any of the consent items?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Does any member of the council wish to discuss any items separately on the consent item?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
None, Madam Mayor.
None. None, Madam Mayor.
Okay. With that being said, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Kaskanian and a second by Councilmember Tanaka.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Mayor Serta, excuse me, I have to interrupt. There's somebody from the public who would like to speak on one of our consent calendar items.
Okay, well, let's hold a roll call for just a moment then, and let's open it up for that person to speak. Because we can't see you on the Zoom, I'd just like to ask if you could please begin by stating your name before speaking.
Hello, this is Citizen Rudy Martinez. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Well,
ahead.
hey, I just wanted to touch bases and thank you for giving me my time. I want to touch base on Resolution 6454 in regards to some of this stuff. It's just been lingering a little bit, and every day I'm getting a little more frustrated. I understand that we put implementations in place, and I know you guys are having a great time, and it's all fun and games. But as a citizen, when we pay taxes, the expectation is to have our constitutional rights, and I feel that's not really being adhered to. Currently, we made a resolution: you have to wear a face mask while you drive, and you got to wear a face mask as soon as you leave your house, whether you're watering your grass or doing whatever, which I thought was absurd. And this happened 2 meetings ago where you guys had less than a 5-minute discussion about that before you said, yeah, let's go for it. And then came out with a promotional video about while you're driving, while you're doing this, while you're doing that. Very upsetting as a citizen. I try to be patient with it. But 3 times when I'm at the park and police roll up on you, come onto the grass and tell you to leave the park like you're a criminal in front of your kids, gets a little frustrating. And just for you guys just to discuss that, taking constitutional rights, what I feel constitutional rights away from your citizens is very, very, very upsetting to have just less than a 5-minute conversation. And it's really hard for me to catch up because I don't have the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes don't come out for months at a time. So I don't know what's really been discussed. If you look on the website, the meeting minutes are not until from like last month or sometime, like the beginning part of April. So I would love it if you guys could expedite that a little bit, really think about these decisions you're making for the citizens and taking away certain constitutional rights. I think we should really look into that and really have these educated discussions as opposed to, hey, let's have a 5-minute conversation. Okay, yeah, let's go with it. Because I think Council Member Francis even questioned a little bit, and the questions was posed to the city attorney, and even she said, hey, that's open for you guys to discuss. And the discussion, like I said, lasted less than 5 minutes. And so I just, very, very upsetting, very upsetting. I know we're doing our part to do that, but at some point, we need to be like other cities where we're opening up areas and we're being more customer service friendly. Especially with Gardena, half our tax dollars going to the police department. You know, if we look at the numbers, it's very frustrating, very frustrating. Council member, is it Kanigan or is it Art? I think it's Councilmember Art, right? You know, and some of his implications, how we're going to get some of this money back, taking up, you know, possibly getting some type of money from the small businesses around here, I thought was a little off topic there too as well. So these are just me as a resident paying my taxes, and I plan on paying more taxes, of course. I want to make it, but I think we need to start doing a better job from that. And I know I'm in the minority. Most of the time we just keep our mouth shut and we just let you guys do your thing, and that's fine. But I just wanted to give my 2 cents that we could do a better job. The city manager, love the guy, really personable guy, but I think some of the stuff not really thought out. A lot of times it comes to the meetings and you guys ask him specific questions and he's like, well, I don't know about that. Well, let me find out. Let me see what's going on with that. And then sometimes when we pose these numbers that we have in our budget, we're not looking at it from a bigger picture sometimes. So once again, I think we could just come better educated. So once again, this is just feedback. It's just hopefully to improve it, because it's really frustrating for citizens and people on my block and some other stuff. And obviously we don't want to escalate it. So we said maybe we'll start doing this and we'll start chiming in, maybe start sending some emails and stuff too. But I mean, we got to do a better job of this. We got to be like some of our other sister cities. And I know that's what we're striving to do. And I'm really appreciative of that. That doesn't go unnoticed. You guys are doing a good job when it comes to that. But there's a lot of talk and not a lot of doing. There's a lot of not really thinking about the citizens, or maybe just in your collective small groups and not as a whole. And so that's my vow, is I'm going to really start getting a lot of my neighbors and a lot of small business owners and some other people to really start putting their input, and really, that's why I think I'm mostly angry with myself for not bringing this sooner. But I think we have some new faces in there. Councilman Francis, I hope you step up, say your name. Councilman Henderson has always been a big proponent, come up with some really great ideas. I cannot speak highly enough about him. I'm very impressed with him. City Attorney, very articulate, very great. I think it's great. So that's my 2 cents. I just wanted to say, before we start taking constitutional rights, before we start having our police really enforcing it, making us feel like criminals, that's the first time I ever had police roll up on me like I was a criminal, saying, hey, you can't be here, or hey, where's your mask? What are you guys doing? Unnecessary. And I don't want to get the officer in trouble. That's not his job. He's just taking orders, but it really comes from the top down, and that's kind of where it needs to triculate. So it's not let's get on the police. Let's get on ourselves. Is there something we could do a compromise? That's it. So sorry, I don't mean to go off on a rant. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, I believe, Mr. Martinez, thank you very much for your comments there. Let me just do a quick follow-up because of the fact that this is our only way of letting the community know what's going on. Back about a month or so ago, we did have our ordinance state that you have to wear your mask while driving. We since amended that and said that you don't have to wear it while driving, especially with the fact that it's just your family members in the car with you. If you are some type of commercial driver, you do have to wear your mask if you're an Uber driver or taxi driver. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the ordinance as it states for the parks, the parks are open, but you have to keep moving. When you're outside, you do have to wear a mask. So, as long as you're consistently moving, if you're walking through the park, it's exercising, but you cannot just sit there, stay in one spot. And of course, you definitely have to wear your mask. As it relates to the agendas, as far as the minutes are concerned, we usually always have our minutes up within just a couple of weeks. Right now, with COVID going on, we have some employees who are working from home, as well as those who are in the office. So everything may not be happening as quickly as the public would like, but we are definitely doing our best. Every council meeting, we have to have our minutes ready from the previous meeting. So, and that's handled through our city clerk's office. But again, COVID-19 is posing a lot of very challenging things right now. So we just ask if the community can be just a little bit patient as it relates to that. We do have a lot of concern about some of the things as it relates to COVID-19. Hearing what our recent numbers are, I believe it was 191. I believe it was 191 confirmed cases in Gardena and 21 deaths. So our first concern is always going to be our community's public health. So that's why we have to make some of the decisions that we're making. It may seem like we're only discussing it for a couple of minutes, but we have our agenda packets way in advance. So we're reading over all of this information. There are a lot of questions that a lot of us had that we may email back to the city attorney to get some more clarification. So, unfortunately, like I said, on TV, it may seem like we're not, but all of us are affected by this. We all have friends in the community and we're all interacting. So we know that this is very hard and difficult for our businesses, our residents. It's tough. And I thank you for your comments. We always want to welcome that because it always, keeps us updated as far as what's going on. But again, public health is always going to be number one, and we have to take that into account first. I know it's very inconvenient for all of us, even us doing this Zoom from home. So I just hope that, please keep that in mind as well. So with that, I'm going to go back to our city clerk and ask if we can do the roll call again. If you can start from the beginning, please, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we'll do that.
I'm sorry, City Clerk, can you hold on one second? Did any other council member would like to say anything at this time since I did offer my comments?
No, I'm fine. That response was very adequate.
I'm
Okay.
good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis, Councilmember Francis,
Can you hear me?
Okay, and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8, which is Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. Just want a point of reference, the May 5th, 2020 meeting was canceled. Have our public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak during the public comments?
No, we don't have anyone.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to our departmental items. We're going to begin with the first item, which is item number 9B1, which also incorporates ordinance number 1818 and resolution 6433. Mr. City Manager, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, agenda item 9B1 is a public hearing, which is ordinance amending chapter 17.20 relating to park and recreation dedication and fees, and resolution setting the in-lieu park dedication fee for residential development. Ordinance number 1818 is an introduction of ordinance amending chapter 17.20 of the Gardena Municipal Code relating to park and recreation dedication and fees, and directing staff to file a notice of exemption. Resolution number 6433 is the adoption of resolution setting fees in lieu of park and recreation dedication and directing staff to file a notice of exemption for the applicant, the City of Gardena. Government Code Section 66477, known as the Quimby Act, authorizes local governments to require the dedication of land, impose a requirement of payment of fees in lieu of land dedication, or a combination of both for park and recreation purposes as a condition to approving a tentative map or parcel map for residential purposes. The Quimby Act provisions are incorporated into Chapter 17.20 of the Gardena Municipal Code, and in lieu fees are currently based on the fair market value of the property being developed. The current methodology does not provide for a uniform fee, does not relate to the cost of acquiring parkland, and creates inequities among various developments. Staff believes that a uniform fee should be set and the ambiguities of the code removed. The resolution established an in lieu Quimby fee of $10,000 per unit. There is no financial impact. What's required is to conduct a public hearing, receive testimony from the public, introduce ordinance number 1818, adopt resolution number 6433, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption.
Okay. Okay, so this is a public hearing at this time. The hearing is now open. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody wishing to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Let's open it up for questions here. Does any member have any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. The one question I have, Mr. City Manager, in regards to having a flat rate, does that actually create some inequities between the smaller developers or developments and the larger developments, though?
Mayor Pro Tem, staff has taken that into consideration and did a study, and we found that $10,000 would be an average of taking into consider the larger projects versus the smaller projects. We believe that 10,000 is a good amount to set. What we do know is that, as you know, if fees are set too high, oftentimes the project is killed because the fees just overshoots the project, and then if the fees are too low, the city doesn't benefit at all. We have Acting Director Berrigan and Assistant City Attorney Lisa Kranitz here as well, and they're the ones that did the research on this and came up with a $10,000 per unit fee as the proposed fee for the Quimby fees.
Excuse me, Clint, this is Deputy Clerk Romero. We have a presentation by Assistant Attorney Lisa Kranitz at this time.
Okay, go ahead.
Unmute now. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Can you hear me first off?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager Osorio went over the basics of what we've prepared. Over the past few years, as staff has been more and more residential development projects, we've noticed inequities and problems regarding the in-lieu park and rec fee that's authorized by the government code for subdivisions. Could I have the next slide, please, Becky or Amanda? So Government Code Section 66477 allows the city to either require dedication of property or payment of fees in connection with residential subdivisions. Gardena usually just takes the fees because properties are not really big enough to get the dedications of land. These provisions are in Chapter 1720 of the Gardena Municipal Code. And after analyzing this, staff's recommending we update the methodology, amend our ordinance, and provide uniformity in the in-lieu fees to be collected. Next slide. Currently, the municipal code provides that in-lieu fees are to be based on the fair market value of unimproved property value, with the value to be determined within 90 days of map recordation, which really happens, it can happen years, in fact, after a project is approved. And our code provides that credit may be given for private open space within development, which is used for active recreational activities. Next slide. In reality, this has led to uncertainty for developers, and it allows and has created inconsistency between some developments. The city actually sets the fee based at the time of entitlement, not the time of map recordation, because you'd have no way to set the fee in the conditions of approval if you had to wait. In some cases where the purchase price wasn't quite set at the time of entitlements, the city had to actually figure the land value for the developer, and we did that based on assessed value increased by the 2% per year. The tax assessor lets it go up through the time of approval. In some cases, city has given credit for open space that exceeds the amount required by code, although it's not necessarily for active use. And over the years, developers have sometimes pushed the envelope as to what should be counted, putting staff in an uncomfortable position. Next slide. So here's a list of 5 recent projects that have gone through. The location, the cost per acre, the cost per unit that would have been charged if there wasn't a credit, and then the cost per unit after credits were given for certain items. This came out to an average of about $8,257 after credits were given. But as you can see by the second to last column, the fees are actually much higher, and the lowest priced per unit fee was $8,585 for the Malia development on 178th. Next slide. So staff took a look at the average cost per acre of the properties that had been recently developed, listed above, and we looked at the purchase price or proposed prices for some of the recreational land that the city's been looking at, in part for the Prim Pool. And then the average cost per acre jumps up to $2,443,000 and some change, which equates to $21,041 per unit. Without the recreational land, we still are coming out at almost $17,000 per unit. This type of fee, as the city manager indicated, makes projects basically infeasible because the developers are not going to be able to charge a high enough fee in most cases to recoup their money. Next slide. So staff is recommending to change the methodology, and that's set forth in the resolution that's part of your packet, but set a flat flat fee of $10,000 per unit. This will provide developers with certainty. They know going in what their project costs are going to be per unit. It avoids pressure on staff to work with developers to try and reduce fees from unreasonable amounts that can sometimes get up to $20,000. We're also recommending eliminating the fee for lower income housing units when the housing unit is restricted, and reducing the fee for moderate income housing units when it is restricted. Next slide. We also are recommending eliminating the ability for credit for open space private improvements that's on the private land for two reasons. First, when a development has more amenity space than required, it makes the project more desirable, and theoretically they should be commanding a higher purchase price for that, which should be reflected in the purchase price. Second, the $10,000 per unit is already a reduced fee. It doesn't appear fair to the city to then give them credit for some private open space that they may be providing. Next slide. And just as a comparison to other cities, we wanted to show you what the neighbors were proposing, though we did throw in one Orange County city. Some of these cities charge what's called an impact fee, and that's not authorized under the Subdivision Map Act, and that applies to any type of residential development, even apartment units. But as you can see, this ranges from a high in Redondo Beach of $25,000 a unit, with the notation that the Redondo Council specifically indicated they wanted to inhibit growth. And then it goes down to a low of Torrance of $550 per unit. Gardena is park poor. We're supposed to have 3 acres per 1,000, and the report that the county prepared that was also attached to your agenda packet indicated we're below 1 acre per 1,000 people in the city. Next slide. So the recommendation of staff is to open the public hearing, receive the public testimony, introduce ordinance 1818, which will amend chapter 1843 to set the uniform, allowing the methodology for the uniform fee as established by the resolution, and eliminating the ability for private credit. And then actually adopt tonight resolution number 6433, which will set the $10,000 fee and direct staff to file a notice of exemption for that. In regard to the question of whether this punished or was inequitable between small and large developments, it's not, because it's based on the number of units. No matter how many units you have, you pay the same $10,000 per unit. And we're happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. This is Mayor Pro Tem. I have another question. So in the event that somebody desires to develop, I won't say low-income housing, but workforce housing development, we're not going to give them a credit as well. So just the 10,000 would then be an incentive for them to actually develop workforce housing, could be potentially.
If the workforce housing were, a document was recorded to restrict that to affordable units for the 30-year period, then they would receive the credit. The recommendation certainly can be modified to provide credits for other types of development, but we were tying it to the income, so that with the idea that that lowers the price of that unit by $10,000 per unit if they're not paying the fee on it, or $5,000 per unit if they're paying a half fee on it for moderate income.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Lisa, is this applies to ADUs as well too? If somebody's converting garage or building, in-laws?
No, because it's the in lieu park fees apply to subdivisions when you're doing a map. So when you're doing an ADU on a property, you're not dividing the property into separate parcels.
I see. So basically, so only if you separate the parcels.
Right, for condominium developments or single-family residential developments.
I see. I see. And we don't have at this time any impact fees regarding any ADUs as well, right?
No, the state law on ADU says you can't even impose a fee on any ADU that's impact fee on any ADU that's less than 750 square feet. And then if it's more than 750 square feet, you can only impose a pro rata share. So if you had an impact fee, $1,000 per, we actually have $1,000 fee per unit for residential development. If you had a 1,502 square foot house and you added 751 square feet, you could only charge $500 because it's 50% of the size of the development.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I have a quick question about this not meeting the park needs in Gardena. So we're like at 0.8 per
I think it's
acre.
0.8 is what the report said.
Okay, so I guess out of my curiosity, if we're not meeting this standard of what we're supposed to be meeting, is there some type of a penalty against us for that?
No, no penalty. It's just that allows you, you know, what you're providing. Actually, let me take that back. The 0.8 need, I think we could use that to develop an impact fee, excuse me, an impact fee for rental type units as well. When we could show the need, the refurbishments, that report that was attached listed millions of dollars worth of improvements that were required in the parks.
Right.
And that in part, new development will put a stress on parks, that you could do an impact fee for rental developments if you went through the appropriate studies. But there's absolutely no penalty. It's not like the housing, where if you don't provide the low income, there are penalties.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
Councilmember Francis.
go ahead.
Okay, so basically, this is just charging the same, so the developer, no matter how large or how small, this development, everybody will be the same fee. There's no differences between, one paying one fee and someone else paying another fee. It sort of sets the fee as a standard.
That's correct. The fee is based on a per unit price, and it was derived in part based on the average population density per unit as determined by the Department of Finance, which is 2.87 persons per unit. Now, if there are provisions that if somebody could dispute that there would actually be 2.87 people, let's say it was some sort of condominium development that was for seniors, then they could say, we're not going to have 2.87, it's for 55 or 60 and older, and it's a one-bedroom unit, and realistically, we're only going to have 2 people per unit. There is that type of flexibility in the ordinance and the resolution to make an adjustment if required. But we do recommend, and the resolution does provide, that if they're going to make an adjustment, the adjustment should be based on the actual per acre cost of the property as set by the average cost, not based on the discount that's already being provided, because the city's already writing down this fee by a third to half, depending what the average price is, what you're using for average price.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. So if there are no more questions or comments on this here, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And I'm going to ask, is there any council member who would like to introduce ordinance number 1818?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk. That was introduced by Councilmember Tanaka. And then as it relates to resolution number 6433, can I get a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, I'm sorry, who said that? Okay. Madam City
I'll
Clerk.
second.
Okay, got it. There was a motion made by Councilmember Cascanian and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis, Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 9B2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 9B2 is another public hearing for ordinance number 1817, introduction of ordinance amending the Gardena Municipal Code relating to density bonus and directing staff to file a notice of exemption. During the past two legislative sessions, the legislature has enacted changes to the density bonus law, which requires amendments to the city's density bonus ordinance found in chapter 18.43 of the Gardena Municipal Code. The zone code amendment includes the following: eligibility of certain student housing development and 100% affordable housing for a density bonus, application procedures, removes and clarifies certain languages, indicates a number of incentives or concessions available, adds a provision that there is no minimum parking requirement for lower income rental units developed as either special needs housing or supportive housing, and other changes. On March 3rd, 2020, the Planning and Environmental Quality Commission held a public hearing and adopted resolution number PC-1-20, recommending that the City Council adopt the zone code amendment. There is no financial impact at this time. What's required is conduct a public hearing, receive testimony from the public, and introduce ordinance number 1817, approving the zone code amendment. And I believe we have another presentation from Assistant City Attorney Lisa Kranitz on this item.
Okay, so let's first begin by opening the public hearing here. And then Lisa, let me turn it over to you.
It's actually Director Ray Berrigan who will be doing the presentation.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Serta, members of the council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So the item before you today is a request for the council to amend Gardena's density bonus law so that we are in compliance with the state law. Next slide. Next slide, please. So the government code section 65915 requires that all local jurisdictions have a local density bonus law that is consistent with the state law. And local density bonus laws can be more permissive. They can allow for higher density bonuses, but they cannot be more restrictive or lower density bonuses. In the recent past, the state has amended their provisions, and so what we're here today is to incorporate the provisions into our local ordinance. Next slide, please. So we're going to go over some of the highlights of the amendments that were made by the state. The first one relates to student housing, and although now keep in mind that all jurisdictions have to incorporate these amendments, and although we don't have a major university within the the city's jurisdictional boundaries or immediately adjacent to our jurisdictional boundaries, we would still have to put it in, and more than likely we wouldn't be seeing this. But for reference, what this states is that if 20% of student housing proposed is designated for lower income students, the developer could receive an additional 35% in additional density. Or you, on the screen is shows that if a developer proposes 100 student housing units, and they propose that 20 are dedicated at lower income students, they could essentially build 135 student housing units. Next slide. The other change relates to 100% affordable housing. So if a developer proposes a project that is 100% affordable, they would need to include 80% of those units would be dedicated for the lower income tiers, and the 20% would be dedicated for moderate income. They would be granted an additional 80% in terms of density for just the lower income units. And some examples here is if a developer proposes 100 units that are all in the lower income tiers, they would get an additional 80 units, so 80% of the lower income units. Another example, if a developer builds 100 units and 80 of those units are designated as lower income, under the lower income tier, and 20% of those are in the moderate income tier, they again only get 80% of the lower income number, so they would get an additional 64 units. The difference here is that in the next bullet, the city of Gardena, most of Gardena is within a half mile of a major transit stop. And so there's a new provision in the state law that says that if a project is proposed within a half mile of a major transit stop, and they are providing the lower income tiers, they would be they could build as many units as could possibly fit on that site, or there is no limit on density if they are within that half mile of a major transit stop. Next slide. And there's also been some changes to incentives and concessions for affordable housing. So if a developer proposes, if a project is proposed with 80% of the units at the lower income tier, and 20% are proposed at the moderate income tier, the developer could receive 4 incentives or concessions. If the project is within a half mile of the major transit stop and they still meet those affordable income tiers, they would not only get the 4 concessions and incentives, but they would also get an increase in height up to 33 feet. So if the maximum height was 50 feet in a zone, they would be allowed 33 feet above that. And for those that are newer to this or need some refresher course on the incentive and concessions, the developers could ask for a reduction in parking requirements or reduction in reduced setbacks. So in order to allow for the project to work. Next slide. And also there's been some relaxation in the parking requirement. So any parking that any development that supports special needs or supportive housing, the parking requirement could be eliminated for those specific types of housing projects. Next slide. And also, we had a code provision that stated that the affordable unit needed to be the same as the market rate unit. And what we're doing here is we had a workshop with a lot of developers and architects, and they stated that they were able to go ahead and provide affordable units on their project site, and they could look the same, but the floor plans could be a little bit different in order to accommodate a more affordable units. So because of that, and we wanted to allow for that flexibility and to really support affordable housing, we are proposing to amend the code so that, again, if the outside of the building looks the same, but the floor plans are different, then we would be able to allow for that modification. Next slide. And with that, I request that you open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, and introduce ordinance number 1817, approving zone code amendment 1-20. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, the public hearing is open already. And Madam City Clerk, do we have any speakers? I'm sorry?
Excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have anybody requesting to speak on this item here?
And no, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Does any member of the council have any questions or concerns about this project here?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. Councilman Kaskanian.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Verga, nice to hear your voice. I have a question. Can you define the number for the units? Let's say, if we go back to the, Becky, to the slide show, 80% to 20% will be affordable. Yeah, here we go. As far as the residents right now or the communities, if they're looking at this slide over here, it says if at least 80% of your units are for low income and 20% are for moderate income, developer gets 4 incentives. What we talking dollar wise? I mean, where are we going to define, who's moderate, who's, low income? Well, do we know the numbers, dollar numbers?
Yeah, so there's lower income tier include lower income and very low income. Those dollar amounts are set by the health and safety code, and they would vary. They do change somewhat depending on the income levels in the region. Moderate income, again, it has its own tier, so we can get those numbers for you. I'm looking for those right now as we're speaking.
Yeah,
there are maximum amounts that they would be able to charge in each tier.
I see. And my other question, while you're looking at, if Becky, we can go one more slide forward on this one. One more, I'm going to have a question on that later, but one more, please. It just says something about we have to be compatible with the other cities.
Right. So every city has to be every city's local density bonus ordinance needs to be consistent with the state's law, with the state law. So again, we can't be more restrictive, but we can allow for, again, a higher density bonus if we want to, but we can't go lower than what the state is requiring us to do. So even if this ordinance did not pass and we received an application for affordable housing, we would still have to process that permit using the state law.
I see. Okay. All right. And as far as the parking, you said either we're going to give up on the setback or we're going to lower the parking, right? The amount.
Well, right. So those are for those would be an incentive or a concession that we would work with the developer. For instance, there was a project on Gardena Boulevard that provided one affordable housing unit. They were allowed 4 additional market rate units because they provided that one unit. But to make the project work, they needed to reduce the setbacks so they could make the project so the building could fit on the property. And they also asked for a reduction in a relaxation in the parking standards that's required, that's in the code now, so that again, they could make the project work. So those are the incentives that we could discuss with the developer in order to, and allow those to move forward. So they wouldn't have to meet certain development standards, because that would be an incentive to provide affordable housing.
But if we give them some incentive on the parking, then we'll have a parking issue, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technically, I mean, it could work out that way depending on the location of the project. But those are it's the state requirement that, and what right now what we're looking, those are the incentives. What's part of this ordinance is where, and you may be speaking about parking for supportive housing and for special needs housing. That parking could be completely eliminated from that project if that type of project is proposed. So there's two things. There's incentives to reduce the parking, and there's also a requirement in this code that would eliminate parking for the supportive housing and for special needs housing.
I see. Okay, thank you. Nice to hear your voice again.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right.
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I have a question in regards to that. And thank you, Councilman Cascadian, for that, everything. Ray, in regards to at whose discretion do we offer up setbacks or relaxation on the parking requirements? Is that us, or that's just worked out through discussion?
Right. That would be a request from the developer to staff on what they would, on what their requests are, and then we would go ahead and work with them to if they meet all the affordable our density bonus requirement, if they meet our density bonus requirements, like the 80% rule, the 20% rule, then that opens up the discussion for the concessions and the incentives. So first they would request, and then we would go ahead and approve those. Again, based on depending on what they're proposing. But there's a limit to how much they can propose, and that's part for certain types of projects, and that's shown here. I think it's well, for 100% affordable housing, the limit is the maximum is 4.
Second question, could you just give an example of the difference in the floor plan of a moderate floor plan versus a affordable floor plan? What would be the difference?
Right. So one example example that we received from one of our developers that we're working with right now is if you take the footprint of a standard townhome that you see being built today, the tri-level townhomes, if they could effectively build that same townhome to look the same on the outside, but the inside, instead of one townhome, they could break that up into 2 or 3 smaller units. So they would be able to provide some additional affordable units without it looking different than on the outside, if that makes sense. So they could have maybe 3 flats. It's 3 floors. They could have a unit on every floor, or they could break it up in a certain way that would meet building code and fire code, but it would look the same on the outside. It would look the same as the other housing units in the development on the outside.
So an example would be it will look from the outside, 1 bedroom could look like a single, in other words, and everything, correct?
Well, on the outside, so the window placements would be relatively similar. The doors would be, there may be some additional doors on the outside. But for instance, in a townhome, you typically have your garage on the first level, maybe an entryway. Then on the second level, you have your living area, and then the third, you have your bedrooms. And in an affordable unit, you could have that same footprint and that same mass, but within the unit, you could have 1 unit on the first level, 1 unit on the second, and 1 unit on the third. Separate units, same footprint, same look on the outside, but different interior, because they're breaking it up on the inside to create the affordable units.
Illusion.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Councilman Tanaka, I have a couple.
Go ahead.
So, Mark, that's where the, what he just described, it's like smoke and mirrors. So that's where your parking, starts to come in, where you have three units in one. And where are they going to park other cars? So I guess that's the thing. So on these units, I guess I lost my train of thought there for a second. The affordable units that you're talking about, do they actually have to go through the planning committee to get approval, or can they just come to you and say, we're going to do this affordable housing units, and this is how many we're putting in, and here's our plans?
No, they'd still have to go through the same process, but the only difference is that they're allowed the additional density and potential concessions and incentives. But the process is they still have to provide submit an application, submit a process for us to go through the environmental review. So all of that stays the same.
Okay. So then the other question is, so that we're doing this change because we actually have no choice, right?
Correct.
Except for the one change that was on the last slide regarding the city-initiated change to allow them to modify the interior floor plan. But all the other changes regarding the increased density and the reduced parkings required by state law.
Okay, thank you.
So I have another question. This is Mayor Pro Tem
Go
Henderson.
ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in regards to, because now parking becomes an issue because we're reducing parking and everything, can that be added as an impact fee, or, because that's going to be a burden now again, parking's already at a premium in our city. How could we address that?
We don't have that established in our code, and that may be an impediment to affordable housing if we're adding additional fees. I would defer to Lisa on the legality of that.
I believe it would probably be a problem to do that. You certainly couldn't have an impact fee that only applied to affordable housing. It's not an incentive or concession if you say instead of providing the parking space, you have to pay for the parking space that you've lost. So again, the changes we're talking about tonight are for projects that will probably never manifest in Gardena for 100% affordable project. And I think the thought is when you have affordable units, the parking needs are actually less than they are for a market rate type unit where you have 2 cars and your children have cars and a motorcycle and whatever else.
Thank you.
So Lisa, isn't that why they put in the half mile to transportation facilities?
Yes, that's the other thing. I mean, and you'll see this coming up as we go through the vehicle mile traveled new analysis that will be coming before you in a while, and housing element and everything else that the state is pushing people towards out of their cars into alternate modes of transportation. As a whole, the state wants to see you riding your bike, using the buses, using the metro, and not being in single cars. So there is a push in all sorts of places, not just here, to reduce the amount of parking.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I got something else I want to add.
Go ahead.
So now in this new post-pandemic world we're in, where more folks are working from home and everything, do we anticipate the state maybe re-looking at this, because now there's going to be less people on the road anyway at this point? So then we can kind of preserve our parking space, or what do we think?
I don't think the state is going to do one thing to reduce the housing laws that they have put upon all cities in the jurisdiction. The only thing the pandemic has done is seem to have quieted down the new housing bills that were already being proposed to put even more requirements on us to provide for housing, because this legislature is too busy with other things, unfortunately, that there's a pandemic. But I don't see them turning around on this.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
so just to clarify, with Council Member Kaskinian's question on the definition for extremely low income housing versus low income. So extremely low income housing is a household income less than 30% of the median family income in Gardena, which is 50,800.
Which is
50,000. If it's under 30% of the median household income in Gardena, which is 50,800, that's considered as extremely low income housing. And then the low income is anywhere between 30% and 50% of the median family income.
Okay.
And then the moderate one would be 50 to 80%.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted the numbers, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, so a developer comes in and are they automatically, fall into the system? They need to request participate and do we have all cities are being required to amend their zoning to kind of comply with the state. Am I correct on that, or?
Could someone restate the question for Raymond and myself? I couldn't understand it. It came through garbled.
Okay. I was just asking whether or not developers, they need to request participate in the density bonus, and are all cities being required to amend their zoning laws to accommodate it being in compliance with the state law?
The developer makes the request as part of the application for the additional units and the reduction standards, i.e. the incentives, concessions they want to see. And all cities are supposed to bring their density bonus ordinance into compliance with state law. But even if they don't, the state law will apply to them.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions myself. The first question I have is, you guys don't recognize the community college as being like a college within a couple of miles of the city, like El Camino College or Los Angeles Southwest College? That's the first question I have.
So that we would be yes, they are, but not a college that provides housing. It's more of a commuter college.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. The second question I have is, as it relates to the developer, are we going to kind of check periodically to make sure that most of this is being used for student housing? Because, you know, you have a developer say, well, hey, I'm going to build this for, you know, student housing. They build it, and then it turns out that it's used for other types of housing. And are we going to periodically check on, you know, just to make sure that that certain percentage is still consistent?
If this type of development came through, it would have the appropriate restrictions recorded against the property.
But will we still check on it periodically? I mean, even though it's reported, will we check on it periodically just to make sure?
I assume that we could work something out that they would have to provide information to verify that their tenants are in fact students.
I would like to see that. And let me just give you an example. We had a project that came before the city several years ago. It was technically it was in Gardena, but it wasn't. And it was at Gardena High School where they mentioned that they were going to build housing on campus for Gardena High School. Now, I understand Gardena High School is in that LA area. Just that one little property right there is Gardena, is LA, but Gardena is all around it. And they stated that this was only going to be used for teachers. It was going to be affordable housing for them. It was not necessarily open to the public, just to get more teachers to teach, you know, locally in the inner city. And that was what was initially said. Well, a couple of years later, they started putting out flyers saying that this was like some type of a low-income, affordable housing there, which was completely different than what they told us. And in fact, we had a lot of concerns about this, but they assured us, and this was LAUSD, they assured us this was not going to be. So I just like to make sure that we're just able, if this sort of thing ever comes to us, that there's a way that we will be able to check periodically just to make sure that, you know, it stays student housing.
Mayor Serta, if we do have that type of development that come through here, we would make sure that the developer or the facility is adhering to what they have applied for.
Okay.
If they did get the bonuses, then they would have to use that for that specified use on their application.
Got it. Okay. And then the third question I'm sorry.
If I can just go back to that, I'm looking at the actual language of the code, and in order to be eligible under this, the developer actually has to provide evidence to the city that the developer has entered into an operating agreement or master lease with the institution of higher learning.
Okay.
So it would be the school that would essentially be placing the students in there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's good to know that right there. And then the last question I have is that if we're going to be relaxing the parking in this area, if a project like this ever comes before us, and we have to assume that some students may have cars, and if they're parking within the community and we're starting to notice, you know, parking in certain residential areas, like homes, will the residents in that area not be allowed to get like parking permits in that area? I mean, would that limit that?
You could do a parking permit program, but you couldn't exclude the lower income people from it.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so that's the only questions I have. Are there any other questions? Okay. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And at this time, I need to see if there's any council members that are willing to introduce ordinance number 1817.
I'll do it begrudgingly, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. I'll do it begrudgingly, yes.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, ordinance number 1817 was introduced by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good luck, Mark.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 9C1. Actually, all of the items will come together, 9C1, 9C2, and 9C3. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 9C1 is a substantial amendment to the city's citizen participation plan to update emergency policies and procedures in response to COVID-19. The city is proposing to amend a citizen participation plan to include emergency policies and procedures, which will, 1, reduce the required public comment period for substantial amendments from a minimum of 30 days to no less than 5 days. And number 2, provide for virtual public hearings where in-person public hearings are not required, and virtual public hearings will be held if A, national or local health authorities recommend social distancing and limiting public gatherings for public health reasons, and B, Virtual hearings provide reasonable notification and access for citizens in accordance with the grantee's certifications, timely responses from local officials and to all citizen questions and issues, and public access to all questions and responses. These emergency policies and procedures will apply to substantial amendments made to the fiscal year 2015-2019 consolidated plan and related documents through June 30, 2021. Staff respectfully recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing and following the public hearing, approve the proposed substantial amendment to the city's citizen participation plan to update emergency policies and procedures in response to COVID-19. What's required is conduct public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant or CDBG Citizen Participation Plan substantial amendment and approve amendment for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing, Urban Development or HUD. So item 9C1 is to basically to amend the participation again from 30 days to 5 days. Item number 9C2 is another substantial amendment amending the 2017-2018 HUD action plan to reallocate the CDBG funding to COVID-19 related activities. And item number 9C3 is the substantial amendment for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the HUD annual action plan to accept the CDBG-CV funding from the CARES Act.
Okay. So this here is also a public hearing. Do we have any presentation on this here or no?
We do not have a presentation, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, is anybody from the public requested to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor, we have no member of the public that wishes to speak.
Okay. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments on this?
We actually have a question from Mr. Martinez, who spoke earlier.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me? Good.
Yes, go ahead.
My comment is I don't think we should put any more money towards any COVID-19 issues at all. I wasn't clear on how the city managers described the first one, but I know B was to put more money towards the COVID-19 items. Me as a resident, no more. I say we have no more money going towards COVID-19. I think CDC, the president, the governor is doing just a fine job with that as well. I think that money could be allocated somewhere else where it's needed. That's just my thing. Once again, I don't understand what he said the first part of it. I didn't quite understand that first one. So forgive me.
Mr. Marquez, stay on the phone real quick because Mr. City Manager, can you explain the process that happens as it relates to COVID, how everything that we're doing, how we're keeping track of it so that we're reimbursed back? Can you explain that process?
That's correct. So, Madam Mayor, so to explain this to Mr. Martinez, the first one that I mentioned, 9C1, is basically to shorten the time of public participation from 30 days to 5 days, so that we can facilitate the help that the residents and the businesses in our community need very much. Number two, the 9C2, the $75,000 that was allocated for the 2018 HUD action plan is being diverted from the project at Raleigh Park Restroom, where we have already identified another funding source for the Raleigh Park restroom project, and using this money to help our residents that have been affected by COVID-19, and that's coming directly from HUD. And lastly, 9C3 is a allocation of $370,000 from HUD through the CDBG program. It can be used exclusively for small businesses throughout Gardena to help them during this time of need. So this is money that's been available to us. I don't see any reason why we should not facilitate the help that a lot of our businesses need during this pandemic.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's. I think that's great. And there's going to be some type of auditing process, or there's going to be some type of when that money's allocated to certain people or certain businesses as needed? I'm
Absolutely.
assuming, or- yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's great.
Our CDBG funding program is audited every year. This is a federal program.
Okay, perfect. I think that's great then. That's great.
Mr. Marquez, thank you for your comments. We appreciate them. Are there any more questions or comments from any council member?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Mr. City Manager, in regards to the funding that's available, you know, and we definitely appreciate that we can reallocate these dollars. However, we all know that that's not a lot of money. So how will we figure out, how does it get dispersed? How will folks be notified? What's going to be the application process to make sure it's equitable and it's available for all those that are interested?
So, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that question. There's two pots of money here that we're talking about, right? So the $75,000 is available for a resident. So I know it's not a lot of money. So that, as specified by HUD, it's very clear what kind of programs we can use it for. Some of the examples are rental assistance, utility payment assistance. So the $75,000 is actually be run through the Recreation Human Services Department to reach out to our residents to see if anybody needs help. I'm sure there's a lot that's going to be needing help. We have not. We're still drafting the guidelines as far as the facilitating of the funds. I'm thinking, through an application process, if we don't have enough demand for it, we could do it on a first come first served basis. But if we do have, our demand exceeds actually the money that we have available, then we would probably do a lottery type of system, just so it's fair to everybody. And that goes for the $370,000 as well for our small businesses.
Okay, so then would that mechanism or protocol come back before us so we can kind of at least lend some insight to that as well?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, this is the first step in doing that for us to be able to facilitate this whole program. The next step would be to bring it back to you for your approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions or comments? Madam City Clerk, were there any more speakers? I apologize. I threw me off after the
I would like to defer to Deputy City Clerk Romero and ask her that question, since she's getting that directly.
Hello, yes, this is Deputy City Clerk Romero, and Mr. Martinez just asked another question, and I'll read it into the record. He asked, can a flyer be put online to share on social media with Gardena people?
So to answer that question, yes, we flyers and social media is just some of our means to reach out to folks out there and to our businesses. I'm sure we'll do that. We'll be on our website and we'll have a campaign to make sure that everybody that is in need of help get the help that they need.
Thank you. Okay, were there any more questions, Deputy Clerk?
No, we do not have any more questions.
Thank you. Does any council member have any more questions or comments? If not,
I have a comment.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a comment with regard to the citizen participation at the 5-day window. Is this just a one-time change? And can it be extended a little bit? Because I know even with when we had a 30-day time period for citizens comment, sometimes getting the word out to our citizens.
So I guess the question is this a one-time amendment to our requirement? So, yeah, to answer that question, yes, this is a one-time amendment to, and simply the reason why we're doing this is shorten the time from 30 days to 5 days so that we can get the help out to people as soon as possible. That's the only reason why we're doing that. This is just for this COVID-19 portion of the action plan. The rest of the CDBG plan, the program we would be doing the normal 30-day participation plan.
That makes
And
sense.
I have a comment as well. May I comment?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. As you know, my first city council meeting, I talked about, made a request to set up a COVID emergency relief fund. And at that time, we weren't able to do it. So I'm very happy to see that because of that, the COVID-19 disaster recovery plan through HUD, that there is money available to cities. So thank you, City Manager, for finding a way.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. City Manager, thank you for giving us this information. I know this is something that you've been working on now since the beginning of this first breakout in the beginning of March, trying to get this money available for residents as well as small businesses. So we really appreciate all the extra time and effort. A lot of times we can't always discuss ahead of time, but we knew this was coming down the pipeline. So we're happy to see that we're at this point here right now. So thank you for that. And if there are no more questions or comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And this time, I'm going to ask if we can get a motion to approve substantial amendments. And yeah.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
and Mayor Serta.
Yes.
Yes. Next up is item number 9C4. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, I'd like to request that 9C4 be pulled from the agenda at this time. We've had some late information from a couple of different financial advisors that would lead us to believe that we could probably save the city some money on some interest if we explore other options out there other than these three banks that we have in front of you today.
Okay. Well, if there's no objection from anyone else, let's go ahead and exclude that. If there's any objections. We're going to move on to item number 9C5. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 9C5 is resolution number 6456. To adopt resolution ratifying regulation number 3 issued by the City Manager as Director of Emergency Services, partially modifying regulation number 1 regarding city parks pursuant to proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency. On March 16, 2020, the City Manager, the City's Director of Emergency Services, declared a local emergency as authorized by Government Code Section 8630 and Gardena Municipal Code Chapter 2.56.060. City Council ratified the proclamation by resolution number 6441 on March 19, 2020. On April 9, 2020, the City Manager issued regulation number 1 pursuant to the city's emergency proclamation, which closed all city parks and open spaces. And on April 14, 2020, City Council approved resolution number 6446 ratifying regulation number 1. On May 6, 2020, the LA County Department of Public Health announced a reopening plan for the County of LA, wherein under stage 2 of the plan, outdoor parks may reopen effective May 8, 2020, provided that all activities adhere to distancing and infection control protocols. Given such announcement by the LA County Department of Public Health, the Director of Emergency Services issued regulation number 3, partially modifying regulation number 1 regarding the city's parks. Regulation number 3 orders the following. City of Gardena Park shall be open during regular park hours for passive use only, such as walking or jogging. Parking lots shall be open during regular park hours for visitors of the city's parks. There shall be no gatherings, picnicking, or other such use in the City of Gardena's parks and parking lots. All sport amenities such as playgrounds, basketball courts, tennis courts, skate parks, soccer fields, etc. will remain closed for all until otherwise ordered. Social distancing shall be maintained and a face covering shall be worn except for children under the age of 2. The primary costs that would be incurred by the city are the enforcement of the regulation, which are currently being covered by existing department appropriations, but will be tracked separately in the city's disaster fund. Staff will pursue federal and state reimbursement for all city costs incurred. What's required is adopt resolution number 6456.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions, comments on this item here?
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Just a recommendation with this, Mr. City Manager. Could we add more trash cans in some of the parks? Because as people kind of sit in the parking lot or whatever, although they shouldn't gather, trash may become an issue. So could we incentivize people to use trash cans and or pay a little bit more attention to the trash that's around some of the parks?
Mayor Pro Tem, we will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
I think that helps. I think that helps Mr. Martinez in his park issue, though.
Okay, so with that, we're going to go on to vote here. Can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6456?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor Serta?
Yes?
Mr. Martinez has his hand raised.
Okay.
He has a comment.
Before we
Do you
take
want to allow him to make his comment?
Sure, that's fine. We'll go ahead and do that.
Hey, just my 2 cents. Thank you for giving my time. I thought you missed my hand being raised. I want to be a big advocate of saying, let us enjoy our parks. Let us go. I think it's really absurd. I see a lot of my older neighbors and stuff. They do walks, and I'm afraid if they stop in a long location, would they be now saying, "Oh, they're stopped in that area"? So I want to say, I think when history settles itself out, I think there's a little. It's not going to work. I just want us to be able to say, can we have that conversation? Yes, can we enjoy the park within, let's say, if you do decide to sit down, you have to sit down 6 feet from somebody else of some sort like that. Or I know you guys are not going to open up the playgrounds and the basketball courts, but it'd be nice just to go on this nice day to sit down with your family and enjoy the parks that we're paying our tax dollars for, as opposed to, hey, somebody's going to come by and call the cops again and say, hey, keep moving, Buster. Once again, that's what I feel the city park employees are doing. They're just kind of out there calling on the citizens repeatedly. And I'm glad you guys are tracking it, because it'd be nice down the road to really look at how many calls were of this, and then how compared to the different crimes that are going on in the city. I would love to compare and contrast, because I feel there's going to be something to be said. But obviously, it's here now. We don't have that data enough down the road. So I just want to say this. Our citizens will love to see, maybe we can be that city to say, hey, we started opening it up. Less than 1% of our population has had, expired from this COVID-19. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, Mr. Marquez, thank you for your comments. I think if anybody is walking and they need to take a break for a couple of moments, that's not something that's going to warrant the police being called. But again, as we said before, we got to practice. Public health is of the utmost importance. And we even know that once we start reopening things, the numbers are going to spike. So, all of this has to be done with caution and care. So I thank you for your comments. We do have a lot of people calling and saying that, hey, people are trying to hang out at the park, or there are crowds there. I know I get those phone calls, or people are maybe cutting through the tape to play at the basketball courts. So, there are a lot of people who are really concerned and worried that, COVID can get them. And if, people are continuing to congregate before we allow that it's going to spread quicker. So again, we really need to respect, public health here. So with that's my only comment. Anybody else want to comment before I call for the vote? No? Okay. Madam City Clerk, I'm sorry, I don't know if I told you who was voting on this. We had a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Mayor Serta. Mayor
Yes,
Serta, thank you.
yes. Okay, next up is item number 9D1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 9D1 is resolution number 6444, approving the engineer's report for the Gardena Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District fiscal year 2020-2021, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments under the Gardena Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District for fiscal year 2020 to 2021, and setting a time and place for hearing protests in relation to thereto, public hearing June 9, 2020. Staff respectfully recommends that the City Council adopt resolution number 6444, approving the engineer's report pursuant to the requirements of resolution number 6435. Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District between Normandy Avenue and Dalton Avenue was established and commenced in fiscal year 1994-1995, and Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District between Denker Avenue and Western Avenue was established and commenced in fiscal year 2001-2002. The assessment will pay for the servicing and maintenance costs of landscaping and pertinent improvements within the median islands on Artesia Boulevard between Western Avenue and Normandy Avenue. The budget amount for this is $10,000, $10,062 plus $11,600, which equals $21,662. Funding source is assessment district, and what's required tonight is adopt resolution number 6444.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on this item here?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mr. City Manager, can you tell me one more time where this money coming from? Is it a grant or it's not from general fund, right?
No, this is an assessment on parcels located in those assessment districts. So it's a tax.
I see. So it's tax money that we collected and I see.
Yeah, so we use those monies in those parcels within the assessment district to pay for the landscaping costs for the year.
And if we don't use it at this time, what happened? Can we just, postpone this?
Well, I mean, we're doing maintenance on it, every day, every month. So, costs are incurred, on an annual basis. So that's what we're collecting it to use it on that same fiscal year.
I see. No, only the reason is, because we are in this situation, I'm just trying to cut expenses. So I just, if we cut this $21,000, it's going to cost us more money down the road to maintain it, or, we can postpone this maybe in September, October, or November, or whenever.
So the assessment, the levy is going to come through, and we're going to collect it. The LA County is going to send us the funds for the assessment district. Now we can't. It's in a different funding source, right? So we can't use it for anything else but the landscaping for that particular district. So to answer your question, if we defer the maintenance of on those medians, then you're not going to replace the sprinklers, you're not going to replace the timers, you're not going to cut the lawn, and so on and so forth. So if you defer that, there's going to be more cost later on when you're trying to catch up on anything related to deferred maintenance. It gets more expensive at a later time. The fact that we have the money available because it is a levy on an annual basis that we have to use it for that particular fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, it looks like we can set a public hearing for the date of June 9th, 2020. Madam City Clerk, is that sufficient?
Yes, that is, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So what we're looking to do is adopt resolution number 6444. Can I get a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second that.
Second. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Mark, go ahead. We'll let you second it.
I'll second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll?
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis. Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 9D2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 92 is resolution number 6448, approving the engineer's report for the Gardena Consolidated Street Lighting Assessment District for fiscal year 2020-2021, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments under the Gardena Consolidated Street Lighting District for fiscal year 2020-2021, and setting a time and place for hearing protests in relation to thereto, public hearing to be set at June 9, 2020. On July 28, 2009, City Council approved and confirmed an increase in the assessment of the City of Gardena's Consolidated Street Lighting District through Proposition 218 proceedings, and as described in the engineer's report. The Consolidated Street Lighting District pays for all energy costs, construction, and maintenance costs of the street lighting. The budget amount is $771,124.83. Funding source is the assessment district. What's required is to adopt resolution number 6448.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on this item here? If not, Madam City Clerk, the date of June 9, 2020, is that sufficient for a public hearing?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So we need to take a vote on this to adopt resolution number 6448. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Tanaka.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Kaskanian and a second by Councilmember Tanaka.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 9D3. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 93 is to approve a budget appropriation of $55,000 from Measure M local return and $167,800 from HSIP grant funds to a new crosswalk along Vermont Avenue and 133rd Street, job number 972, and $144,000 of Measure R highway to the new traffic signal at the intersection of Vermont and Magnolia Avenue, job number 973. A traffic study had been conducted, and the results show that a crosswalk with a pedestrian hybrid beacon, or PHB, is warranted. The city has applied for Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP, funds to address this warrant along Vermont Avenue and in the vicinity of 133rd Street. The California Transportation Commission has granted $167,800 to the city for construction of a crosswalk with a PHB in the area. But an additional $55,000 of local fund is necessary to and will be used to acquire the services of traffic and civil engineers to design the crosswalk, PHB, and walkway through the 65-foot wide median and ADA ramps. Also, a traffic study was conducted that has shown that a traffic signal is warranted to address numerous accidents involving vehicles crossing Vermont Avenue at its intersection on Magnolia Avenue. The city has applied for Measure R highway funds to address this issue. The LA Metro Transportation Authority, or MTA, board has granted $1,973,000 to the city to install new traffic signal systems in the subject intersection. A finance agreement, or FA, for $144,000 to cover the design cost has been executed between MTA and the city. Prior to completion of design, city will request to amend FA to include the rest of the funding for construction. Staff therefore recommends that City Council approve the budget appropriations and authorize the city manager as his designee to execute the future funding agreement. The financial impact, the budget amount of $55,000 from Measure M local and $167,800 from HSIP for job number 972, and $144,000 from Measure R highway regional for job number 973. What's required is approve the budget appropriations.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this item?
I have a
Madam
comment.
Mayor Pro. Oh, go ahead, Rodney. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mark. No, thanks, Mark. The question, I have two questions. First, it's the crosswalk on Vermont. So that crosswalk, is it going to extend all the way across both sides of Vermont, or is LA not going to help us with that? The second question is, well, I guess it's not even a question. I guess it's it'll make a lot of citizens happy with a Magnolia intersection there with lights. They were pretty upset when they closed that off. So I think that's a pretty good deal. But I want to know about this Vermont Avenue crosswalk.
Councilman, we will prepare another report for you with regard to the crosswalk.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a response to the question about, is it going to cover the LA side as well too? I'm sorry, did you say it was or was not?
We're going to be providing a report on that. The agenda item does not specify whether or not it covers that intersection.
City Manager Osorio, this is Deputy Clerk. We have Kevin Kwok available for questions if you guys would like to have your questions answered.
Well, if Kevin knows the answer to that, tell him please step in.
Good evening, Mayor Serta and the members of the council. This is Kevin Kwok. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. To answer the questions on whether LA has been involved, they have been involved during the Warren study phase. As a matter of fact, they put the money in towards a Warren study. So their staff had put together a Warren study because they have the traffic engineer manpowers and expertise. So they provided the Warren studies. Now we're the leading agency for the intersections around that area. So we'll be taking the lead. None of the cities, LA, nor the Gardena had funds to proceed with the projects. So we made an effort to apply for the grants. So the funding that we are appropriating will be sufficient to complete the project.
Okay, Kevin. So is that the entire amount that they are going to put into this project?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, were there any more questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and this is probably a question for if this passes for Mr. City Manager. In regards to, let's say if this passes tonight, in regards to soliciting bids for this, what process are we going to follow?
Well, we would be following our normal bid process from Planet Bids.
Planet Bids.
Yes.
Thank you. That was it.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, I have a couple of them here. In the future, I know we have a map of this here, but I think it would really help out a lot if we could have maybe like a Google type of map looking downward on this, or even want a picture of the intersection, because I'm trying to visualize this here, and because I've been on 133rd in Vermont, and I know that that is in between 135th and El Segundo, the two streets that go east and west. And I guess my concern is sometimes when you put these traffic, what do you call it, the crosswalks in areas like that, sometimes it sends that false security, like it's safe to walk out there. And I know we've done a traffic study on this, so I'm sure all that's been taken, taken into account there. But I'm a little concerned about the one on 133rd, and I'm actually trying to go on Google Maps right now to get a visual of the Magnolia and Vermont one myself. So I think in the future that would help us, make a better decision here, just because, I mean, that's a big deal, a crosswalk. I know most people might think it's not, but these are lives, and, you'd hate for somebody walking across there thinking it's really safe. And again, I'm not taking away what the traffic is done, but I'm a little concerned when we put these crosswalks in like that, both of them, whether it's on Magnolia or on 133rd.
Mayor Serta, in the future, I agree with you. I think we could do a little bit better on the graphics. If not, let's put some elevation shots here so you can see how it looks like from the street level.
Okay.
So in the future we'll be adding additional graphics, possibly some pictures to depict exactly where that's going.
Okay. So my second question is Magnolia, I'm guessing is somewhere right about near Gardena Bowl. Is that correct? Like a side street near a car wash or?
Yes,
Okay, it is. And that's where we're looking to put the other crosswalk there?
Signal.
I'm sorry, Signal.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No, that answers that. Any more questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve the budget appropriations?
So moved.
Is there a second? Did somebody second?
Yeah, so I'll second.
Okay.
I think Mark tried to.
Okay. All right, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Kaskanian and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is, we're moving on to directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time? Okay, I have one directive tonight. Mr.
Mayor Serta, I'm sorry, may I interrupt?
Sure, go ahead.
We have a resolution under council items that needs to be, read.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked right over that. My apology. You're right. Item number 10A1.
Oh.
And, okay, Mr. City Manager. Thank you, Becky.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 10A1 is resolution number 6455, designating certain members of the Gardena City Council to serve as representatives on the South Bay City's Council of Governments Board. The bylaws of the South Bay City's Council of Governments, or SBC COG, require that cities designate their delegate and alternate to the SB COG by way of resolution from each member city. City Council will consider the regular annual assignments of Gardena's Council of Delegates and alternates to all outside committees at their meeting of April 28, 2020. At that time, Councilmember Rodney Tanaka was approved to serve as a delegate, and Councilmember Paulette Francis was approved as alternate. The governing board of the South Bay City's Council of Governments. This resolution is prepared pursuant to the South Bay Council of Governments requirements and includes the names of those approved at the April 20, 2020 City Council meeting. What's required tonight is adopt resolution number 6455.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions or comments? My only question is, do both of you guys still want to serve on there as the board member and the alternate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am the alternate during Dan Medina's year, so it's a privilege to now step up.
Okay, sounds good. So you're the actual member and Councilman Francis is the alternate, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I don't know if she's on the screen or off the screen, but I'm assuming everybody's still yes. I was hoping I'd get her back on. Okay, muted for a second. With that being said, if there are no other comments, I didn't know if you want to comment, Councilwoman Francis.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, it'll be a pleasure to serve as an alternate with Councilmember Tanaka.
Great, thank you. Okay, so with that being said, if there are no more questions or comments, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6455?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis, Councilmember Francis.
It's over now.
Okay. Mayor Serta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you gonna try Councilmember Francis again?
I thought I heard her. Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. So we have a full vote there. All right, so next up is, where are we at here? Council directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time? I know the hour's getting late, so where are we at, 10:11? Okay, I have one directive to the city manager. This request, hopefully I can get a second on this here. I would like to look into the option of dissolving the MOU agreement that we have with the Gardena Chamber organization. Not really happy with some of the things that information that I'm seeing come from the chamber as it relates to the city of Gardena, and I just don't see where that relationship is going to work anymore. So I'd like for us to look into the idea of dissolving that at this time. Hopefully I'll get a second on this.
Second, Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, are there any other directors at this time? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to council remarks. We're going to begin with Councilman Francis. Councilman Francis, we're going to begin with you. How about we give her just a moment to get reconnected again? We'll come right back to you if you can hear us. We're going to go on to Councilmember Cascanian, then we'll come back once I see her come back on the screen. Councilmember Cascanian, will you go ahead?
All right, Madam Mayor, thank you. Since the hour being late a little bit, Madam Mayor, I'm just going to have a short report. Today, actually, I got an opportunity, the chance to go and see the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, with Chief Safel, Lieutenant Osorio, and the city manager, Clint Osorio. And it was a great experience for me to see how the men and women in the EOC, they're working hard to keep up with the reports, with the updates on the federal level, state level, county level, and the local. So my hats off to all EOC members, and great job, Chief Safel, with all the operation, and Lieutenant Osorio as well, and the city manager as well too. So job well done. And Madam Mayor, that's all I have to report at this time, and just trying to stay safe and staying locally and trying to cut the visitations. And I just want to wish everybody a good night and stay safe out there and keep up the social distancing.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember right there. Okay. Are you there? Okay.
Yeah. May I talk now, or?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so I had a directive that I was trying to get to, but because you can hear me, you went past it, so can I do that now?
Yes, that's fine. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And then do my remarks, my closing remarks all together? That way you don't have to come back to me?
Yes, that's fine.
Is that fine? All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. So my directive is that there are two, and I'll take them one at a time. And there's one says, I recommend the abatement of business licensing fee for home businesses that that are for the COVID-19, that zero the COVID-19 epidemic, just to help some of those folks that are trying to establish home businesses or having this. Let's do all we can to help them get reestablished. That was one. I have another one.
Okay, is there a second on that? Okay, I'm sorry, no one seconded that. Would you like to go on with your second?
Okay, my second excuse me. My second one is that, I'm calling for the establishment of the Gardena Economic Recovery Task Force. And it would combine all the stakeholders that could be involved in our recovery, our business, economic recovery. Because I really think that as we're opening up and reopening, I think it's important that we plan, because if we fail to plan, then we're planning to fail. So I think it's important that we begin to come together as a community and as a city to come up with plans to help strengthen our local economy and to help our Gardena businesses and workers get back on their feet. Also, this Gardena Economic Recovery Task Force will have 4 areas of focus. One would be business retention, reopening. The second focus would be business resourcing, permitting, and costs. The third one would be community economic development. The fourth one would be communications and marketing, messaging campaign to, buy Gardena, let's get everybody back together. And then the fifth one would be come up with ideas to access federal and state resources, leveraging technical assistance for local businesses in terms of helping them get loans and grants and participate in similar resources. So,
Councilwoman, I don't know if you're aware, but we have an economic development manager who does all of those things there already. So
yes, ma'am. Yeah, but this is not just for one person. This is bringing everyone all together.
No,
and as I went through, I looked at the website and I've talked to different folks. And while we have an economic manager, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just suggesting that we put together this task force of stakeholders. So,
well, that's what he does. He reaches out to all of them. So, and he has those different groups within. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to meet him or to learn more about what his department does. It's very different than what our economic development manager did before. So, but
does he have maybe I can? Okay, listen. What I'll do is I'll sit down and have a conversation with him, and we'll see what we can come up with. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
No problem.
I know you guys are all already doing all these things. I think it's fantastic. Just things that I thought of as I'm going through research and seeing what other cities are doing, and in terms of recovering economically, to help improve the economy. And I'm just trying to bring ideas to the table that you may or may not be aware of, the city may not be aware of, people who live in the city. So that's it. So thank you so much. I'll be Mr. Economic Director. I'll be heading your way.
We do appreciate that, because it takes all to work together, with that. But I think as time goes, you'll see some of the different departments and some of the things that we've never done before, and how ahead of a lot of these other cities that we are, the community sees it or not. There are some really awesome and interesting things we're doing as it relates to COVID, as it relates to the finances, et cetera. And, I'm sure as time goes on, you'll see that as well. Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, it's important that people are made aware. It shouldn't be like a best kept secret. And that's all we're trying to do, is bring some things out to the forefront. And please be clear, I'm not suggesting that these things aren't going on or that folks aren't involved or actively seeking all these areas. I'm just merely stating that we just need to kind of pull it together, and we got a long way to go. And like I said, if we fail to plan, we'll plan to fail.
Okay.
Can we go directly into my, I don't want, because, as you stated, Madam Mayor, the hour is getting late and other folks want to have something to say as well. So can I go into my closing remarks?
Give me 1 second here. City Manager Osorio would like to respond to that, and then you can go into your remarks. Mayor Pro Tem, if I can ask you to take over for a second, my computer's dying, so I'm gonna get a cord. But if I'm not back in time, please take over. So, Mr. City Manager, I think you first, and then Councilwoman Francis, you can finish with your remarks.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Francis, if I may, I'd like to propose a report in lieu of a directive, because we do have a task force already in hand that does, pretty much all of these things that you're proposing. It's called the Gardena Economic and Business Advisory Committee, or GBAC. The members are comprised of appointments from each council member and one from myself. That body meets quarterly and discusses, pretty much everything that you've highlighted. So if I may, I'd like to bring a report to just to give you an idea, to refresh all council members what exactly does the GBAC does, and what have we done in the past, and what do we aim for the future. So in the next council meeting, I'd like to bring a report back to highlight the GBAC.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, we'll go ahead with council remarks, and I think Councilmember Francis, please give us your remarks.
I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So much for technology. Technology. So here we go.
I'm muted again.
No, we can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Hear me fine now?
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much. Since our last meeting, I attended a meeting with the League of Cities along with a city member, Almer Sushi, and had a chance to talk with them and change some information about some of the things that are going on in our city, and talk with other local cities within South Bay to hear about the challenges and successes as they go through this unprecedented time together. I also had a chance to meet with Jesse Barra and Roy.
Could you repeat your last council member, Francis? I missed that. Please.
She got disconnected.
We'll come back to Councilmember Francis. Yeah, go ahead. What's your last? That last?
I'm unmuted now.
I'm muted.
You're muted again. Try to unmute yourself.
I can't. This is on my phone, and my phone's unmuted.
We can hear you right now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Which part do you hear?
Well, it kind of dropped out after you said you were with League of Cities and talked with Assemblymember Almer Suchi and a couple other cities, and we didn't hear who else you were meeting with. That's what we missed. Are you there?
And also that we're involved, and and I attended a landlord training workshop. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Councilmember Francis, we'll swing back to you, and we'll go ahead and go to Councilmember Tanaka. Go ahead.
Why don't I submit mine in writing?
Okay, that's fine. That's acceptable. No problem.
I'll Becky, if you don't mind, I'll just submit all my comments in writing.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Tanaka?
Ago, but COVID-19. Thank you very much. But I did. I tried to get on the South Bay COGS steering committee meeting yesterday. Unfortunately, There are some code problems, but I think they'll get that fixed up. And we have a new office, which is in Torrance, so we should be able to get back together again. I was fortunate enough to be asked to do a public service announcement for graduation and Mother's Day at the EOC, so I kind of killed two birds with one stone. I did the PSA, but I also got to see how great our EOC is. And back in the day as a young policeman, I was in charge of the EOC, and our EOC was nothing like what it is today. I can tell you that our EOC, everybody's looking at us, that ours is live, and our people are doing a great job in a small room. And most other South Bay cities are doing virtual. So I thank our EOC for such a great job that they're doing right now. And Madam Mayor, thank you so much for allowing me to do the invocation tonight. I appreciate that also. And congrats to our deputy city clerk's son, who just graduated, I believe, from Arizona. Press on and keep going for the next step. So that's my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Tanaka. Madam Mayor, I see you returned. You have the con, so you are up. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. I had to resort to a cell phone here, but thank you again for taking over from me there. My council remarks are very short. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day. Since the last council meeting, I took part in a LAUSD town hall meeting where we spoke with probably close to 400 parents, and we had the local superintendent, Mike Romero, who was kind of like hosting the meeting. We had all of our principals from local schools in Gardena, and we were basically answering a lot of questions that parents had as it relates to how kids are getting their homework, making sure that, students have some type of device and, Wi-Fi. And it was mentioned that for the most part, our students, they're doing really well. I believe it was something like 98% of students are corresponding with their teachers. There's a very small percentage, I think it was like 2%, that they're having, some problems trying to get in contact with the student and the parent, or they don't have some type of device. But LAUSD is working to, make sure we're at 100%. But I think that's awesome, seeing that we have so many kids, that are trying to have a virtual classroom. And that's just amazing because, with anything, to get 98%, I think is pretty awesome. So I appreciate being able to participate in that phone call. I think it went on for about an hour or so. And, parents were able to ask questions and, any problems that they were having or how to follow up with teachers or et cetera. I thought it was really good. Also, I participated in the Mother's Day photo video, and I want to just, once again, our recreation services, this is doing a great job. As we keep saying with COVID, there's so many different things that are going on, things that we've never had to do. And I really appreciate what that department is finding creative ways just to reach out to our mothers, our seniors, to the kids, and just let everybody know that you're not alone, and we didn't forget about you. And always know that our pantry, we still have that available. My computer's down, so I can't give the telephone number to the pantry right now, but if you go on our website or call City Hall, for those people who are in need, and I'm seeing for some people on social media, we haven't worked in March and we're concerned about food right now. So reach out to our pantry. That's what it's there for, to help those who are in need during this time right now. So again, thank you to all. You guys are doing a great job. My colleagues, again, thank you guys for volunteering to do these videos, public service announcements. I know if one of us, are not available, then I know I can always lean back on one of you guys to kind of step in there. And we appreciate that because we all still have busy schedules, even with COVID going on. So with that, that ends my report. Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I attended a kind of a small TED talk / talk, small lunch talk with USC Sole Price Public Policy Forum, and we talked about the effects of COVID and what municipalities can anticipate as we get through this and after this in regards to different actions from the public and things that we can do to kind of be preemptive and be supportive and collaborative of our community and our economics and everything like that. I also attended with the league with Council Member Francis, a meeting with Assemblyman Marisucci to discuss the impact that lack of sales tax and the things that are happening economically to a lot of communities in the South Bay. So it was enlightening. Let's see, tomorrow I'll be meeting with LA Business Federation Economic Task Force. I'm the chair of the Responsible Governance Committee. So what we do is we meet pretty frequently after the governor states his directives or suggestions, recommendations, as well as the county. We try to come up with ideas to bring this economy back forward. So we have a pretty lengthy discussion. It's about a 2-hour discussion. So that meeting is tomorrow, and I'll report back. And I also attended my first SCAG meeting, and we voted on the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy Plan that they set forth. There's a lot of consternation in the 6 counties that are represented by SCAG. So the vote was to go ahead and approve the plan. It has no impact on our housing allocation, but it gives us an opportunity to go back within the next 120 days and to amend the plan. So I'll be following up with SCAG on that, and I'll bring that information back to our council to see how we proceed from there. So ends my report. It's 10:32, so the hour is long, so I'm done.
Okay.
I need to interrupt for a moment. This is Deputy Clerk Romero.
Yes.
We skipped 10C, City Manager's remarks regarding directives and council items.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay. Mr. City Manager, my apologies.
Hours is late.
Hours late. I was gonna say something, but I'll be brief. I just want to share something. Sorry. So on Thursday, May 14, this coming Thursday, May 14, we are having a free lunch on us. It is drive-through only, and this free lunch will be held from 11:30 a.m. until we run out. It's going to be here at the City Hall complex, 1700 162nd. This could not be possible without the help of our partners, business partners, Italian, Costco, Principe Meats, and the California Census 2020. But the only thing is, in order to comply with social physical distancing, the no walk-ups will be allowed. It's going to be strictly a drive-through event. That's on Thursday, May 14, from 11:30 until we run out. We have, speaking of Census 2020, that is currently going on right now. It's extremely important that everybody participates on this because based on the count, the federal government will distribute funds to Gardena to support programs such as education, roads, healthcare, social services, housing, and many, many more. We do have a video to highlight the census, and it's just a special thank you to the Recreation and Human Services Department, and specifically Rec Leader Darren Smith for putting this together. Hope you enjoy the video. This Deputy City Clerk, are we having difficulty playing the video?
It's coming up right now.
Okay.
Oh, Madam Mayor, I do want to add, I forgot to say, I want to thank all the staff at the ELC. I had a chance to tour the ELC, and that was very impressive. So all city staff that are involved, City Manager, Chief Safel, Lieutenant Osorio, it was a great tour. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Mayor Pro Tem? Yep. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No audio.
Cute.
So it appears that we had some technical difficulty with audio, but you saw the video, but you get the gist of what that's about. We do have one last thing to show you, and this is the really quick video to highlight the city's EOC, or Emergency Operations Center. Really a great thing that these folks at our EOC are doing. Terrific work that's being done out there, and just want to again echo that we are probably the only city in the South Bay that's doing a live EOC. So we have a short video to play. Hopefully the audio works.
Give us just a moment. We'll be right with you.
Madam Mayor, while we're waiting for the video, can I say a few things?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Councilman Tanaka reminded me, my son Joseph graduated with his master's at Woodbury University. His major was marketing and business.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go Joseph.
Yep. And my youngest one graduating next week, BS, Bachelor of Science in two majors, biochemistry.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So we were going to have, we're going to walk. We were going to have celebration, but unfortunately, all been postponed or canceled. So they're just going to mail in the certificates, the diplomas.
To properly respond to the consequences of COVID-19, the Gardena City Manager proclaimed the existence of a local emergency on Monday, March 16, 2020. On March 19, 2020, the Gardena Emergency Operations Center was activated. An Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, is a central command and control facility responsible for carrying out the principles of emergency preparedness and emergency management, or disaster management functions at a strategic level. The purpose of an Emergency Operations Center is to ensure the continuity of critical functions of city government during a declared state of emergency. The EOC is staffed by members of the Police Department, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, G-Trans, and City Hall. The duties at the Gardena EOC are divided into various sections, including management, finance, logistics, planning, and communications. Each section reports to the section leader, who reports to the management team, to include the city manager, chief of police, and other city directors. With over 60,000 residents and 7,000 businesses in the city, the team members at the Gardena EOC are working hard to ensure your safety every day. The City of Gardena reminds everyone to practice physical distancing and stay home as much as possible. Please wash your hands often with soap and water, use proper cough and sneeze etiquette, and avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth.
Nice.
Very nice.
And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Very nice.
Thanks.
I have to say that EOC is very impressive, so. Very.
Mr. City Manager, will this be on the city web?
Yes, it's posted on there. I think it's a link, and then it's also on the YouTube.
Okay.
And for the folks that want to see the Census 2020 video with audio, it's also on YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, good. Thank you. Am I getting audio again? I'm going in and out. Yes?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so I'm sorry, were there any more remarks? Because I know a couple people said they had something they forgot to say. Is that it? Okay, on to remembrances. Tonight, we adjourn in memory of Mrs. Reiko Kujimoto, who was 95 years of age, beloved mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Mrs. Kujimoto was a long-term resident of Gardena. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mrs. Irene Yasutaki Hirano Inoue, who was 71 years old, Japanese American national. Who was 71 years of age, attended Gardena High School, and former president and founding CEO of the Japanese American National Museum. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mrs. Toriko Dorothy Awakani, who was 90 years of age and was the beloved mother of former Planning Commissioner Steve Awakani. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Marquez, who was 58 years of age. Mr. Marquez was a retired firefighter specialist, and he was stationed at Gardena Station, Fire Station 159, Battalion 18. Firefighter Specialist Marquez retired in 2018 after 26 years of dedicated service to the Los Angeles County Fire Department. So at this time, the Gardena City Council meeting will adjourn to our special study session, which will be at 6:30 prior to the City Council meeting, which will be on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, at 7 p.m. We are adjourned at this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we off YouTube?
Good night. Good night. I'll be safe.
Not yet.
Get out.
Get off.
I need the phone number